Hello, I'd like to go over a couple problems that students had questions on. First one is this one, the median. When you're doing the median, you want to find the middle value. If you add up how many there are, there's 14, which is an even number, so there's not a middle value. So you add the two middle values together and divide by 2. If we find the two middle values, since there's 14, it would be the 7th and 8th one, because I took 14 divided by 2, be number 7 and number 8. If we count the frequencies to 7 and 8, and then see what score it was. So the first 2 were zeros, the next 3 were 1s, so that's the first 5. 6, 7, so 7 and 8 were both 2s. And so you take 2 plus 2 and get 4 and divide by 2 and you'll get 2. So you take the two middle values, which was the 7th and 8th value. For the other set of problems, you can use Excel, is what the video showed. And so what I did was I typed the number of shoes in and the frequency. There were 7 that had 4 pairs, there were 4 that had 5 pairs, and so on. Now when you're finding the mean, there's 2 ways you can do it. We could multiply these 4 times 7 and get the values. You add them up. So we could do and what we want to do is put equals for an equation. We want this one, and multiplication is an asterisk times this one. And then hit enter. And it multiplied the 2 together. Now to bring the formula down, instead of typing it every time, you can go in the corner. And when you go like this, it brings the equation down. And then we could box it if we wanted somehow. And so this would be our product. Now to find the mean, you want to add both of these 2 columns up. So to add them, we'll click here. We put equals. And then start typing sum and it'll come up. Double click on it and highlight what you want to add. And so that added this and whoops, what did I hit? Oh, I did that. Equals sum and then highlight your values. Close the parenthesis and hit enter. There we go. I don't know why it was putting a 0. Okay. Do the same thing here. We want to add up these. So this is how many there were. 53, and it even says over here 53 random students. And you want to take your product and add it up. So we click at the bottom, click equals, type sum, and then you double click on it, and then you highlight it, close the parenthesis, and hit enter. Now to find the mean then, you need to take this value, use equals for an equation. We take this value divided by the total frequency. So this is one way of finding it. Another way is by using what's called sum product. So you would type equals, and then when sum product comes up, you would double click it and then highlight how many pairs of shoes each person. And then you multiply it by this. So what it's doing is it's doing this product for us. If you use sum product and you highlight each row, it will multiply them together. And then we need to divide by this one. And so you could just type it into a formula. So to type this formula, I'll show you, I'll put it right here. It was equals and then sum product, because I want it to multiply these together, then add them. So it's going to find the product and then add them. So then we highlight the one column, or not comma, multiply. Asterisk means multiply. The other column. So that's going to add all these up. That's going to get the 494. And then we want to divide by the sum of the frequency, the 53. And so you could just put sum again, and it brings it up, and then highlight the frequency. And then close the parenthesis. And we'll have to do, we have to do one more parenthesis. No, there we go. And so that will get you your mean. I always find the variance first and then the standard deviation. All the standard deviation is the square root of the variance. So rather than having more things in your formula. So for the sum product, for variance, you first find the sum product and you subtract your mean. And this is my mean. So I'm taking each of these and subtracting the mean and squaring them. And then I'm dividing or multiplying them by the frequency. That's why the comma's there, because it's going to take this, subtract the mean, and square it, just like you did in your columns before. And then it's going to multiply them times this one. Then again, you need to divide by the sum. So to see that formula, equals sum product. Then we want to take each of these. Wait, let me put a. You need a parenthesis first. So I want to find each of these minus the mean, close parentheses, and then squared, which is a caret, and then we're going to multiply it times this. And then close your parenthesis, divided by the sum of the frequencies, which you could either do the 53 or you can do sum and highlight the sum and close the parenthesis and hit enter. And there's our value right there. For the square root, you just use square root. So it would be, I'm going to put it here, equals, square root is SQRT. And I'm double clicking on that to get it up. And I want to take the square root of this value and hit enter. And there's our square root, our standard deviation. So that would be our sample standard deviation. This is, this is different because this is population. This they wanted sample, So if they want the population, you divide by n. For sample, so this one is population. For sample, standard deviation, we'll go equals, and we'll take, can I put that formula there? I guess we got to do it over. The only difference is when you're dividing, it should have been the sum minus 1. And so we would take sum product and put one more parenthesis because we want to take all of these, subtract the mean, close the parenthesis, and square those. And then we want to multiply them times their frequency and close that. So just like we did before, except when we divide, we want the 53, which was our sum, minus 1, or 52. So this, notice the variance is a little different. And then just take the square root of that. Oops, don't forget your equal sign. There we go. So if they want the sample standard deviation, you use n minus 1, which is just the sum of your frequencies minus 1. Population, you don't subtract 1. Now for the first and third quartiles breaks it up into quarters. And if we look at how many there were 53. The middle one would be the median. So we're going to take 1 out. So 53 minus 1 is 52. So there's 52 of them. Now if we take that and divide by 2, that gives us 26. So that means there's 26 on each side. So 26, your median, and 26. Now we want to break it into quarters. So if we take that 52 and divide it by 4, we get 13. So there's 13 of them. You'd have 13 and then your median. Then you have another 13 in the quartile, 13 in the median. And then another 13 in your quartile. So there's 13 between each of them. If we count 13 this way, we have 7, 11, 12, 13. So 13 is one of the 6s. And that's why they have 6 here. Because if we count over 13, we'll have 6. If we count over another 13, we would have the median, which was 10. Now, to get the other quartile, you could keep counting that way, or you can go from the back because you need 13 on this end to get your third quartile. And if we count 8 and 4, we get 12. The 13th one then would be here. It would be a 12. So you're just counting 13 in and seeing where you're at. And we're at 12. 13 this way, we're at 6. And that's why those are our first and third quartile.